the 1953 top set, and the stories behind the men. In this series, I unpack stories of the men on the cards of the 1953 Topps baseball set. Most cards in the set are called commons by the hobby, but the men on the cards are anything but common. Cards 51 through 55. Frank Campos, card number 51. Francisco Jose Campos Lopez was born on May 11, 1924, in Havana, Cuba. A former Havana college student, he was known as Cisco in the Cuban and Mexican leagues. Campos's professional debut came in 1944 with the Portsmouth Cubs, where he hit .296 in the Piedmont League. In 1945, Campos batted .323 for Portsmouth, putting him in the top 10 in average. He would spend the offseason playing in the Cuban Winter League during 1945 and 1946. While he had great success during those off-seasons, the summer leagues were a bit of a disappointment. Frank played in the 1946 Cuban and Mexican leagues where his performance dropped. Likely contributing to his drop in production was the inclusion of major league players who were lured south, and the top Cuban players, along with some Negro League stars, joined in as well. Campos saw his performance fluctuate from lean years to leading the league in batting average during his minor league years of 1947 to 1951. He would finally get his chance with a big league team late in 1951 with the Washington Senators. He would go 11 for 26 for a .423 batting average during an 8-game audition. He would spend 1951 and 52 in the Cuban Winter League, having moderate success as a fifth outfielder. Campos spent the entire 1952 campaign with the Senators and hit .259 in 112 at-bats over 53 games as a pinch hitter and a backup corner outfielder. He was hit in the head by a ball pitched by Bob Lemon, which may have led to his career ending sooner than he had hoped. In the 1952 and 53 Cuban Winter League, Campos only hit .212 in his last winter ball season. He would split the 1953 season between the Senators going 1 for 9 in 10 pitch hit appearances and never playing the field. Overall, Campos batted .279 in the major leagues and showed above-average contact skills, but his lack of power and eye at the plate kept him from having a sustained big league career. Frank Campos died on January 28, 2006 at the age of 81 in Miami, Florida. Campos played organized baseball for 11 seasons, 1944 to 1954, with the 1946 and 1947 seasons in the Mexican League. He played seasons of Winter League ball as he tried to fine-tune his hopeful big league skills. He made his debut with Washington after winning the 1951 batting championship of the Class B Tri-State League, batting .368 with 177 hits. In his debut game for the Senators on September 11, 1951, Campos doubled in his first Major League Baseball at-bat, and he did so off Howie Judson of the Chicago White Sox. Unfortunately, his .423 starry-eyed debut would not continue in his sophomore campaign. Campos was an outfielder who appeared in 71 games over 3 Major League seasons with the Washington Senators. He played every outfield position in his brief Major League Baseball career. Frank Campos had a brother, Tony, who played in the minors and several international circuits. His brother-in-law, Rafael Sangil, who played in the minors and in fact debuted in the same year as Frank in 1944 and with the same team, Portsmouth. Ted Gray, card number 52. Ted Glenn Gray was born in Detroit, Michigan on December 31, 1924. The 17-year-old pitching prospect was fresh out of Highland Park High School in Detroit when he signed with the hometown Tigers. He was sent directly to Winston-Salem of the Piedmont League in 1942. Gray enlisted in the United States Navy at the age of 18 in March of 1943. He reported to Great Lakes Naval Training Station in Illinois, where he pitched for the Blue Jackets under manager Mickey Cochran. Gray also pitched while stationed in the Pacific Theater of Operations, where he was a ship's cook, second class. Gray averaged 17 strikeouts per game while in the service, winning 12 in a row at one point. Following his success in the Army-Navy All-Star Series, in which he struck out 19 in one game, the Sporting News reported, "You can't tell any of the fellows in this war sector that when peace is restored, Ted Gray won't match the records of Groh, Hubble, Pennock, and Neuhauser, and the other great left-handers. He has a world of stuff. He proudly served 3 years in the United States Navy, and upon completion of his military service in November of 1945, he returned to his hometown. Gray's major league debut was on May 15, 1946, against the Washington Senators. He would pitch just 3 games in the majors that season for an 0-2 record. Gray got off to a great start in 1950, winning 10 games before the All-Star break. He was selected for the American League All-Star team, but ended up as the losing pitcher in the 1950 Midsummer's Classic after giving up a game-winning home run to Red Schoendienst in the 14th inning. It was the first televised All-Star game. After the All-Star break, Gray failed to win another game for the remainder of the year. He suffered from shoulder bursitis. In 1955, Gray pitched for the White Sox, the Indians, the Yankees, and the Orioles. He was released by all of them that season and won a total of 1 game. Only 2 other players have played for 4 American League teams in 1 season, Frank Hilsman and Paul Leiner. A career that had once shown promise finally ended with a record of 59 wins, 74 losses, and a 4.37 ERA. Gray retired from baseball and began a career in the automotive industry before settling down in Florida in his later years. He passed away on June 15, 2011 in Delray Beach, Florida. In 1948, for the first 4 months of the season, manager Steve O'Neill used him only in relief. The young Gray, itching to get a start, finally lost his cool one afternoon when O'Neill pulled him after he had walked 2 consecutive batters. "When are you going to get a ball over the plate?" O'Neill asked Gray as he stepped into the dugout. "Give me a starting assignment and find out," Gray snapped back. O'Neill, admiring the youngster's confidence, let him start a game on August 6th against Washington. Gray threw a complete game 10-inning shutout for his first major league win. In the final 2 months of the season, he went 6-2. Gray was a power pitcher who was known for his forkball and ranked among the American League leaders in strikeouts 4 consecutive years from 1950 to 1954. He had the second highest rate of strikeouts per 9 innings in both 1951 and in 1952. He was also among the league leaders in home runs allowed on 3 occasions, leading the league in home runs allowed in 1953 with 25. Gray was gaining notoriety around the league for his uncanny resemblance to the Hollywood actor Alan Ladd. He is clean-cut and trim, and handsome enough to pose for a collar ad, wrote Lyle Smith of the Detroit Free Press. But his looks are misleading, Smith went on. When he puts on the baseball uniform, he suddenly becomes a cocky little bantam rooster, with, if you'll excuse the expression, the intestinal fortitude of a burglar. Early in his career, he was in a game against the Greensboro Red Sox. He was throwing bullets and racking up Ks. The Red Sox 40-year-old manager, Heine Manouche, himself a former batting champion with the Tigers and future Hall of Famer, kept riding the pitcher from the bench trying to rattle him. The youngster would have none of it. "If you think I'm just a punk busher, why don't you get up there with a bat?" he shouted. Manouche accepted the challenge, inserted himself as a pinch hitter, and quickly struck out on 3 pitches. "He's one of the best left-handed pitchers I've ever seen," Manouche admitted. Although he did not live up to his wartime hype, he pitched in the major leagues for over 10 years and played in 222 career games. The pitcher's name was Ted Gray, and today he's all but forgotten. Let's try to change that. Sherman Lawler, card number 53. John Sherman Lawler Jr. was born on August 23, 1924 in Durham, Arkansas. When he was 8, his father died unexpectedly during surgery. At that early age, Lawler, who was the oldest of 4 children, had to take on additional responsibilities at home. He had to become a big brother and a father quickly. Lawler loved baseball at an early age and became a bat boy for the Fayetteville, Arkansas Class D minor league team in the 1930s. The Baltimore Orioles of the International League signed Lawler in 1943. When he was 18, his pay was $20 a month. Lawler won the International League's Most Valuable Player award in 1945, tearing up the league with 34 home runs, 111 runs batted in, and a league-leading batting average of .364. Baltimore had a working agreement with the Cleveland Indians and was forced to sell its top slugger to the Major League team for $10,000. Lawler made his Major League debut on April 20, 1946. He was a backup catcher for the Cleveland Indians behind catchers Frankie Hayes and then Jim Hegan. His playing time as a third-string catcher was minimal. so he requested to be sent back down to the minor leagues. Although he was often overshadowed by his contemporary, New York Yankees catcher Yogi Berra, Lawlar was considered to be one of the best catchers in the major leagues during the 1950s. The Indians traded him to the New York Yankees, but his playing time was minimal, with Berra on the team. After 3 seasons with the St. Louis Browns, he would land in Chicago, where he blossomed as a player with the White Sox. Sherman Lawlar provided a strong defensive presence behind the plate during his 18-year Major League career. An all-star catcher 7 times, Lawlar won American League Gold Glove awards from 1957 through 1959. He won the first Gold Glove award ever given out to a catcher, which initially had 1 recipient per position for both leagues. Lawlar retired from playing at the end of the 1963 season at the age of 38. He became a coach in the majors and managed at the minor league level after his Major League Baseball playing career had ended. In the last few years of his life, Lawlar operated a bowling alley in Springfield, Missouri, and refereed high school basketball games. Sherman Lawlar's life ended prematurely on September 24, 1977, at the age of 53, after a prolonged battle with cancer. Sherm Lawlar never struck out more than 50 times in a season, and he walked more than he struck out in each of the 15 seasons he played after becoming an everyday player. His career on-base percentage was higher than Yogi Berra's, 357 versus 348. The 7-time All-Star led American League catchers in fielding percentage 4 times over his career. In 1961, he committed only 1 error over the entire season. At the time of his retirement in 1963, Lawlar committed only 62 errors in 1,571 games behind the plate in his major league career, finishing with a .992 fielding percentage. It was the highest for a catcher in major league history. During his career, Lawlar threw out 46.18% of the base runners who tried stealing a base on him, ranking him 5th all time. He caught 110 shutouts during his career, ranking him 21st all-time among major league catchers. On August 20th, 1957, Lawlar caught Bob Keegan's no-hitter. In 1957, he played without making an error in his first 89 games before throwing wild to second base on September 14th. At the time of his retirement in 1963, he ranked 9th all-time in career home runs by catchers. In the case for those overlooked by Baseball Hall of Fame, published in 1992, Lawlar was named as one of the 32 former Major League players considered worthy of Hall of Fame consideration. 7 of the book's players have since been enshrined in the Hall of Fame: Richie Ashburn, Orlando Cepeda, Larry Doby, Nellie Fox, Bill Mazeroski, Hal Newhouser, and Ron Santo. Lawlar is one of 36 catchers who are portrayed in Thomas Owens' book, Great Catchers. In his 2001 Historical Baseball Abstract, historian Bill James rated Lawlar as the 31st best catcher ever. James wrote, Lawlar led his league in fielding percentage 5 times, in double plays 3 times. Also has the lowest career pass ball rate of any catcher listed here. He was chosen for the Chicago White Sox All-Century team on September 30th, 2000. Lawlar barely escaped serious injury while managing in Iowa in 1970. He was sitting in his car at a red light after a game when a nearby building suddenly collapsed. I was just sitting there listening to the radio when wham! It was like the sky falling, he recalled. What made it worse was that I had no idea what was happening. I couldn't see a thing because of the dust and the debris. Luckily, he was unhurt. It's not a rule that in order to have sustained success, a team has to have a really good catcher. It sure does help, though. Bob Feller, card number 54. Robert Bob Feller was born on November 3, 1918, and nicknamed the Heater from Van Meter. He played for 18 seasons in the major leagues for the Cleveland Indians between 1936 and 1956. In a career spanning 570 games, Feller pitched 3,827 innings, and he posted a win-loss record of 266 to 162, with 279 complete games, 44 shutouts, and a 3.25 ERA. I want to make sure you heard that correct. He had 279 complete games. he had 266 wins. His career 2,581 strikeouts were third all-time upon his retirement. As a boy, he perhaps was the first to be raised by his father to be a major league star. Before little Bobby could walk, his father would roll a ball to him and use a pillow to catch the return tosses. From the age of 4 on, playing catch with his father was a daily routine. By the time he was 9, Bobby could throw a baseball more than 270 feet. Although he was an excellent hitter and fielder, his father saw his promise as a pitcher and set up lights in the barn so that the two could play catch during the cold winter evenings. Feller played American League Baseball. The catcher was Niall Kinnick, who would go on to win the Heisman Trophy in 1939 and became a member of the College Football Hall of Fame. At age 16, Feller signed a bonus for $1 and an autographed Indians baseball. He bypassed baseball's minor leagues and made his debut with the Indians at the age of 17 on July 19, 1936, in a relief appearance against the Washington Senators. As the 1937 season began, Feller appeared on the cover of the April 19, 1937 issue of Time magazine. In his first appearance of the season on April 24th, Feller suffered an injury to his elbow while throwing a curveball. He spent April and May healing the arm, and in May graduated from high school. The ceremony was aired nationally on NBC Radio. His career was interrupted by 4 years of military service from 1942 to 1945 as a naval chief petty officer aboard the USS Alabama during World War II. Feller became the first pitcher to win 24 games in a season before the age of 21. He threw no-hitters in 1940, 1946, and 1951, and 12 one-hitters, both records at the time of his retirement. He helped the Indians win a World Series in 1948. Feller led the American League in wins 6 times and in strikeouts 7 times. Upon his retirement, Feller was number 3 all-time in strikeouts behind only Walter Johnson and Cy Young. The Indians retired his jersey number 19 on December 27, 1956. In 1962, Feller was elected to the Baseball Hall of Fame along with Jackie Robinson. Both were the first to be elected on their first ballot appearance since the original induction class of 1936. At the time of his induction, only Ty Cobb, 98.2%, Babe Ruth, 95.1%, and Honus Wagner, 95.1%, had a higher percentage of ballot votes. On December 15, 2010, Feller died of complications from leukemia at the age of 92. In 1939, Feller received his first career opening day start against the Tigers. He won the game 5-1, allowing 3 hits. On Mother's Day, Feller pitched against the Chicago White Sox with his family in attendance. One pitch was fouled off by Marv Owen into the seats and into the face of Bob Feller's mother. He went on to win the game. The United States entered World War II on December 7, 1941, after the attack on Pearl Harbor. Feller heard about the attack while returning from a visit to his terminally ill father in Des Moines to Chicago, where he was to sign a new Indians contract. 2 days later, he volunteered for the United States Navy, becoming the first American professional athlete to enlist. Originally, he tried to enlist as a fighter pilot, but failed hearing test. Feller attended basic training at Norfolk Naval Base and served as a physical fitness instructor there. He also pitched in a baseball game hosted by the military. Although he had received a military exemption because of his father's failing health, he wanted to serve in combat missions. Feller said, "I told them I wanted to get into combat, wanted to do something besides standing around handing out balls and bats and making ball fields out of coral reefs." Feller's first taste of combat was in Operation Galvanic in November 1943. His ship, the USS Alabama, also served during Operation Flintlock, while primarily being used as an escort battleship in 1944. The Alabama went into combat and over the next 6 months saw action off the Gilbert Islands, the Marshall Islands, Saipan, Guam, and participated in the Battle of the Philippine Sea, one of the most lopsided American victories in the war. In charge of a gunnery crew, he was in the heat of combat and later called the battle the most exciting 13 hours of my life, adding, "After that, the dangers of Yankee Stadium seemed trivial." His combat ended in January of 1945. He spent the rest of the war at the Great Lakes Naval Training Station as an instructor. Feller was discharged from service on August 22, 1945. He was decorated with 6 campaign ribbons and 8 battle stars while serving on missions in both the Pacific and North Atlantic, and was made an honorary member of the Green Berets later in life. To publicize Feller's extraordinary pitching speed, the Office of the Commissioner of Baseball commissioned sports film analysis pioneer and former major leaguer Lou Finesca to pitch Feller's fastball against a motorcycle in a 100-mile-per-hour speed trial. The test was conducted in Chicago's Lincoln Park, with Feller in street shoes, suit pants, dress shirt, and a tie, pitching without a mound on an asphalt roadway. He was required to hit a target 12 inches in diameter from 60 feet 6 inches away. The accelerating Harley-Davidson passed Feller going 86 miles per hour. Yet even with a generous head start, the ball beat the bike to the target by several feet. Feller's throw was calculated at the time to have reached 98.6 miles per hour, later raised to 104 miles per hour using updated measuring methods. Feller began 1947 by setting up a barnstorming tour, pitting his own selected team against a Negro League baseball team led by Satchel Paige. Feller's team included Stan Musial and Phil Rizzuto, while Paige's included Buck O'Neill and Hilton Smith. They played in 22 games across the United States. At the conclusion of the tour, each player had made nearly as much money as the St. Louis Cardinals had made as a team for their 1946 World Series win. Feller's biographer, John Sickles, suggested they were trying to make money, but part of it was also he felt that black players weren't necessarily getting a fair chance, and that he wanted to sort of showcase it. And seeing those exhibition games helped people realize that the Negro League players were just as good as the Major League players. An 8-time All-Star, Feller was ranked 36th on Sporting News' 1999 list of the 100 greatest baseball players and was named the publication's greatest pitcher of his time. Ted Williams called Feller the fastest and best pitcher I ever saw during my career. Hall of Famer Stan Musial believed he was, quote, probably the greatest pitcher of our era. He was elected into the Baseball Hall of Fame in 1962 in his first year of eligibility, with then 4th highest percentage of votes. Feller was elected into the inaugural president of the Major League Baseball Players Association in 1956. As president, he appeared before Congress to speak about baseball's reserve clause. Feller was the first player to get a franchise to agree to a share of game receipts when he was the starting pitcher for Indians games. He was also the earliest player to incorporate himself as Rofel Incorporated. He was also one of the first players to work for the right of a player to enter free agency. Feller is credited with being the first baseball star to sign autographs at baseball memorabilia conventions, and was such a frequent guest at such events that one ESPN writer speculated that he had signed more autographs than any other person. In 2013, the Bob Feller Act of Valor Award was created to honor the life of Feller. The award recognizes individuals that possesses the values, integrity, and dedication to serving our country that Bob Feller himself displayed.
Of course, is your tremendous speed. I understand that you once conducted a speed test.
Yes, about back in 1938 or 9, I believe, we had a speed test conducted in Chicago, and I'd like to have you take a look at it sometime.
Well, let's take a look at it right now, shall we?
Fine.
Good idea. While Bob and Lou Fonseca are getting ready for the speed test, listen to this. First, Feller must get a target to shoot at because control is just as important as speed. Next, we've got to get someone to measure the speed of the pitch. This gentleman in blue claims that he can clock anything on wheels. Well, a baseball doesn't travel on wheels, officer. But if you want to race, it's your motorcycle. Let's give Bob a couple of practice shots to get his eye on the target. That's the one that opens the bullseye. I guess we're all set. Here's the test that shows which is the faster, the racing motorcycle or the pitched ball. Coming down the highway at a speed of 86 miles per hour, the policeman crosses the pitching line, and there they go. Bingo! Too fast for you? Well, let's go back and do that scene over again for you. Now we'll see how you look in slow motion. Yes, sir, he's still going 86 miles an hour, but the ultra-speed camera slows him down for you to see better. There he goes over the line, and look, Bob Feller gives him a head start of 10 feet before he throws the ball. Watch the ball now. Bob's pitch is going all the way. It breaks the target right through the bullseye, a few feet in front of the motorcycle. Well, where are you, Mr. Policeman? Oh, there you are. I don't know what your speedometer reads now, but that ball was traveling better than 100 miles an hour. That's plenty fast. You know what happens when you race a motorcycle, Policeman Bob. Well, this time, we'll call it even if you'll put your Bob Feller on that baseball.
Maurice McDermott, card number 55. Maurice Mickey McDermott was born on April 29, 1929 in New York. His father, Maurice McDermott Sr., was a police officer and former minor league first baseman with the Hartford Senators of the Eastern League. Sr. lost his roster slot to a guy named Lou Gehrig. Mulehaus, his scout for the Dodgers, wanted to sign a 13-year-old McDermott, but learned his age and bought him lunch instead. In 1944, at the age of 15, his father changed his birth certificate to make it appear as though Mickey was 18 years old. General manager Joe Cronin of the Red Sox did some research and found out McDermott was only 15. Cronin and McDermott's father worked it out so that McDermott's father got a $5,000 signing bonus and 2 truckloads of Ballantine beer for McDermott. On April 24, 1948, McDermott made his major league debut in a relief effort at Yankee Stadium. McDermott was a nightclubber and a lounge singer who happened to be a rising Red Sox star. From 1950 to 1952, the free-spirited McDermott partied, drank, enjoyed multiple female companions, and kept singing in nightclubs. During this period on the mound, he notched a 25-20 win-loss record. His annual baseball salary was around $77,500, and his music act commanded $500 weekly. Mickey went 18-10 in 1953, but late in the season, some off-the-field incidents made a marked man out of him. He slugged a sports writer, and soon after that, he used foul language in front of a woman outside of Fenway Park. The woman was Tom Yockey's wife, Jean. On December 9, 1953, his world stopped. He was traded to the Washington Senators to obtain Jackie Jensen. As McDermott's baseball career started winding down, he began to drink more. Eventually, he was drinking every night, even when he was scheduled to pitch the next day. After retiring from baseball, McDermott, along with business partner Tino Barzi, started representing baseball players as agents. McDermott would recruit the players, and Barzi would negotiate the contracts. A few players they represented were Tony Armas, Mario Guerrero, Alejandro Pena, Candy Maldonado, and Marty Barrett. Barzi finally ended their business relationship with McDermott due to the latter's heavy drinking. In 1991, after getting into a car wreck and being sentenced to 60 days in jail for numerous DWIs, McDermott sobered up. The same year, he and his wife won $7 million in the Arizona lottery. He wrote a memoir called A Funny Thing Happened on the Way to Cooperstown, in which he blamed his health problems on his heavy drinking. McDermott lived long enough to see his book published. It was released on April of 2003, and he died on August 7, 2003 at the age of 74 in Phoenix from congestive heart failure and colon cancer. Age 13, Ferrera Trucking Company had less concern with child labor laws. Mickey pitched for the company team, facing other semi-pro teams, and at times major leaguers like Hank Majeski and Bobby Thompson, who played under aliases. Ferrera paid $50 to $75 per contest. McDermott remembered, after the game, my father would generously Peel a single off the wad for me and take the rest to the nearest bar. McDermott was an excellent hitting pitcher. In his 12 major league seasons, he posted a .252 batting average, 71 runs, 9 home runs, 74 RBI, 52 walks. He hit .364 for the Red Sox in 1950 and .301 in 1953. While playing winter ball in Cuba in 1959, McDermott's team was at bat when Fidel Castro led the 26th of July movement that overthrew the regime of Batista. Several people on the field and in the stands were shot, including McDermott's teammate and future Cincinnati Reds shortstop Leo Cardenas. After divorcing his first wife, McDermott met Linda Biggio, who would become his second wife. After being out late one night, he invited Linda to his room. The hotel detective saw her dressed in Hawaiian muumuu and said, "You can't bring that hooker into your room." McDermott punched the detective in the mouth and was subsequently released by the Cardinals. Hall of Fame pitcher Warren Spahn once remarked, "The two greatest athletes I ever saw play baseball were Ted Williams and Mickey McDermott." The free-spirited strikeout artist with a 98-mile-per-hour fastball detoured from his promise of Cooperstown due to his wildness on and off the field. New York Times sports writer Arthur Daly labeled the left-handed hurler a triple threat, a man who can pitch, hit, or sing. No doubt the fun-loving McDermott's passion for nightclub performances took their toll on his baseball career. In 1991, Whitey Ford got a 5 a.m. telephone call. His startled wife could not believe what was happening. Ford handed the phone to her and said, Listen for yourself. You can tell it's McDermott. He's so drunk he thinks he won $7 million in the Arizona lottery." Actually, McDermott was telling the truth. About his wife, McDermott wrote, "My reincarnation as a pitcher is doubtful, so at age 74, maybe it's time to sit down, tune in to whatever brain cells I've got left, and figure out where I got lost on the road to Baseball Hall of Fame. Hey, maybe what I've got to say will help a couple of kids find their way into it." It's not about the cardboard. It's about the men on the cardboard. They have stories. Thank you for taking a little time to learn a little bit more about these players.